What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble, please hit the subscribe button on our channels. Help build up our subscribers. And it'll also help you get notifications so you can see when we have a new episode up and follow us. And, as well as if you're listening to us on Spotify or iTunes and all the podcast platforms out there, just hit that subscribe button. You'll know when new episodes are up and be able to enjoy interviews like the one I'm about to bring you right now, speaking with fellow veteran and musician now, Buddy Lee Dobberteen. Is that correct pronunciation of your last name?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm living the dream, man. Living the dream. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. We were talking earlier about allergies. I'm actually kind of dealing with it myself right now.
Oh man.
Because the weather's been like up and down here in Cleveland. And yeah. But hey man, I'm gonna enjoy the sunshine while I can, because it gets pretty gray and gloomy here, for most of the winter. So get out and enjoy that when we're done talking here. So we got connected through a mutual friend of ours, Static, a good friend of mine, past guest of the show, and told me a little bit about your story. And man, you're like the mixture of everything I usually have here on the podcast. You're a veteran with a veteran story, and a musician and stuff. But usually when I have somebody on, before we get into all of that, I like to go into the background. So do you remember originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I want to be a Marine Raider.
Yeah? You knew that right from the start, huh?
Yeah, I wanted to be a Marine Raider, a Marine sniper from the time I was a little kid. And I was never a sniper, but I was definitely a Raider. So I achieved, well, I got what I kind of wanted.
Yeah, that kind of, goes into the next question. Like, when did you know you wanted to serve your country? When did you feel that calling?
Well, my whole family's veterans. I'm from the Midwest, grew up in Michigan, and my family's, a lot of them are from the South. And I just saw that, I always thought there was a bigger purpose for my life than serving myself. So in September 10th, 2001, I joined the Marine Corps. The day before 9/11, and then 9/11 happened, and bang, a couple months later, or 1 month, exact 1 month to the day, I shipped off to boot camp.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard so many stories about people like, September 12th signing up, because everybody was proud to be an American and ready to go, but it's ironic. You were signed up the day before.
Everyone says it's kind of like it's if you know me, it's kind of my MO. It's like a day short or a dollar short, a day late.
Yeah, well, you were a dollar or a day early in this case.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so at a young age you kind of knew you wanted to serve, and like right away the Marine Raiders were on your radar, I guess.
Yes, sir.
And you shipped off to boot camp, and what was that whole like? Well, even before that, when you were in school and stuff, waiting for that moment. Well, how were you preparing yourself?
I used to do MMA and hunt and fish, and so I was a little overweight to join the Marines. So I really worked hard and just prepared myself mentally. I just said, you know what, this is gonna suck, but 13 weeks, I'm gonna do my thing, and that's it. I just prepared myself. The biggest thing is to prepare yourself mentally, to be prepared to know that no matter what happens, it's not what you expect.
Yeah. Expect the unexpected. And,
exactly.
Definitely get that that mindset, like, going in knowing, well, this is probably gonna suck, but the end goal in mind,
Yep.
is definitely gonna be worth it when it's all said and done. And then you graduated, I'm assuming Paris Island.
Camp Pendleton or MCRD San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually went to I went to a recruiter station so I could go to Hollywood. So be a Hollywood Marine, I guess, if you know what I mean.
Nice. And then so but I mean, I'm sure the boot camps and everything's the same. It's like you gotta go through everything to. I mean, my father was a World War II Marine, and he even in the old age, if anybody introduced him and said, "Oh yeah," and he was a Marine, and he just like was a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. It's like you earned that. Yeah, I am a Marine. You earn that, and they can't take that away from you when you make it through that. So you make it through boot camp. Then what was like the next step with to achieve your next part of your goal with getting into the Raiders?
Well, in boot camp, I was a really good swimmer. I lived on a lake and out in the sticks, and all we did is swim, hunt, or fish as a kid. Try to find any kind of hole to jump in, and in the summertime to swim. And never was a swimmer in high school or anything like that. But in boot camp, I came in as a contract infantry reservist. And hold on, my little thing's going crazy. Contract reservist, and I decided that, and my SOI instructor said, "Hey, man, I can get you into an amphibious raid company. I think you should try it. You're first class swim qual out of boot camp. Don't be a sissy. Go do it." I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And my parents didn't know. They thought I was coming home for good and be a reservist. Instead, I called them up, or I didn't call them up. I waited till I came home and I told them, "Hey, by the way, this boot leaves only, or whatever, 10 days or whatever, because I'm going back and I got to go to salt climber school and all the schooling, the pipeline that they send you to."
So, like, for the audience that may not be too familiar, and even like myself, what exactly is a Marine Corps Raider?
Marine Corp Raider is anybody that has gone through amphibious raid package, MARSOC, boat company. It's a it's a unit. It's a small unit. That's what we do. Is we come in under the cloud of darkness, either scale cliffs or come in and kick in doors and snatch people out of their beds. We're the boogeyman.
Nice.
And in Iraq, we got rid of our boats for Humvees and still snatch people out of their beds, and we're the boogeyman.
So, I mean, I didn't do any of the snatching people and kicking in doors and climbing part, but I was in a assault craft amphibious unit in the Navy. So it's like we would do the
awesome.
beaching, stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I could kind of relate a little but that was the extent of it. We were mostly like hauling, guys like you that would go do the rest and take their equipment. And then I'd be hanging out fishing, waiting for them to finish,
That's awesome. Yeah, we being cold and miserable is the greatest, or not the greatest, but that's, if you can be cold and miserable and don't care and be sandy and the beach, and then you get a nice trip to Coronado, all the time. And we kept our boats and a nice boat basin. So when you're a junior Marine, you get to go down and work on them every once in a while. You get to take them out and cruise up and down the coast of Southern California. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Totally. Like we used to have our assault craft unit here, and I was in the reserve side too in the unit, and we had it right here in Cleveland by the Rock Hall.
Oh, wow.
But we only had beautiful Lake Erie, but it was still an excuse to get out of get out of the classroom and get out of the building, and say, we got to go do swim quals and, sneak out a hibachi grill and all that stuff and go out on Lake Erie and,
maybe catch some walleyes or something.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, it sounds kind of parallel. Just, ours wasn't as hardcore and stuff, but, you said that was kind of like a goal as a kid. You got there, you achieved it. How many of your time in the Marines was basically focused on that?
Until I got combat disabled, about my first 3 years. And then I spent a year learning to walk again, and then I went back for my third tour in Iraq as a PSD. I went back as personal security detachment with a colonel with 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, that's a really good group of guys.
Oh, yeah. I would work with some of those guys during my deployment, too. It's like we were part of, we'd do like distinct DV missions, distinguished visitors and stuff. And or when the armed forces entertainers would come in, do, personal security for them and stuff. So that was a lot of fun, man, to get you out and just, as long as we had because by the time I went on my last deployment, I had 2 little girls at home, and just as long as I had something to keep focused on, instead of worrying back home, it was a good time,
Absolutely.
But, so during your time in, what were some of the oddest things that you experienced coming from the civilian world, and then you're in the military culture?
For getting up early, I grew up hunting and fishing, so getting up early that's just part of life. Growing up on a farm and stuff, getting up early was no problem. But cold, miserable, I guess, was one of the things I just had to learn to just be content in all situations. Just being content. Contentment with your surroundings. Whether it's 200 degrees or freezing cold or perfect. Just being content.
Yeah, I guess that's part of me growing up in Cleveland, why I haven't bailed yet, and headed down south like the majority of my friends. This is well, this is where I'm at right now. This is where life has taken me. This is where family's at. I guess I got to deal with the cold and misery that I know is coming up. I can already feel it, when the weather changes, because of my service connection disabilities, my neck and my knees and shoulders and everything is it's coming. It's gonna suck, but got to be content in it, man, and just focus on the positive. And then without breaking OPSEC, what was one of the worst places you served at?
Probably Nasiriyah. El Nasiriyah or Ramadi. Those 2 places were pretty bad. We did a raid in Ramadi, and that place is just, I hated it. I hated the environment, hated the company I was with. I was with a kind of a, not really joint task force, but just, it sucked.
And then, what would you say was one of the best places you were able to serve at?
Anywhere with my guys from 2-1 Fox Company. Anywhere. Just being in a hole, miserable or anything. Some of my team was just, we were all best friends. I mean, they couldn't put together a better deal for us. We were all the jokes, the hazing, it was all just, we loved it. I had a great command.
I could definitely relate with that too, with that ACU2, that assault craft unit I was in, because that was one of the blessings, I guess, of being, and I was in that unit as a reserve component, but we would,
Mhm.
we would get, there was funding for, because of, how we were needed. There was funding to go on plenty of trips and little mobs or annual trainings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But the cool thing was we all come back and we all lived in the same area,
Mhm.
where it's like if you're active duty, you get a couple years and you make some solid friends, but then you're not going to see them every day because eventually your orders are going to send you somewhere else. Where
Mhm.
with the local ACU2 guys, I still get together and see them. Unfortunately, I've had to go to a couple funerals of the guys,
Yeah,
um,
done a lot
but
of that.
it's you make this, it's like a family, you know,
Yeah,
and it's sometimes it's stronger than blood relations.
I'll say it's definitely stronger than blood.
Yeah. And then what would you say is your would be one of your like pet peeves with
Mhm.
civilians since like transitioning out of the military?
Uh, Disrespect. People complaining. They complain about food or, I mean, everything, just complaining. I don't like to complain. I hate complaining. Um, it's just, it sounds dumb. It's just my biggest pet peeve. It's just, I've seen little kids be content with, we dropped duct tape. We did a raid and I lost some duct tape, which is no big deal. We lose it all the time, snatching people out of their beds. But the next day, the house next door, we were watching it to see if the Southern Insurgent would come back. And these kids made a soccer ball with duct tape. They were content, and
Mm.
that night they were not content when we destroyed their home, came in the house, snatched the insurgents out of their home, and the next day you would never know. They're just out playing soccer with duct tape ball they made.
Yeah, I would notice that quite a bit too when we would go through the cities and stuff like that in some of the
Mhm.
areas. It's like um and I mean, people that bitch here about not having the latest, like name brand
Yeah.
thing or whatever, and you see how they're living, but how happy the kids were running
Mm-hmm.
around. And my kids, when I was over there, are the same age as these kids. And I'm like looking at them like, there's no reason why my kids can't be playing with these kids,
Mm-hmm.
right now. And it had me, really like questioning a lot of, what are we doing, um,
Absolutely.
the bigger picture, I guess, of life. But
We get we took shoes. My last tour, I got to guard General Mattis for a little, like maybe a week or so,
oh, nice.
and they were giving out truckloads of shoes, and we had to teach him how to put on shoes, like with laces and stuff. It's really weird. This village that we were in. I mean, I was like, what? Doesn't everybody know what shoes and toothbrushes and toothpaste? They were looking at the brushes like rubbing their hairs and arms. They didn't know what toothbrush were. Yeah.
But the joy that probably they had trying to put those shoes on and
Oh,
stuff,
it's
like
funny. I mean, it was a ball. I loved it watching them.
the magic we felt we had, when we were kids putting on shoes, and I'm going to run faster now because the
Mm-hmm.
shoes are special.
Yeah,
And then, like, what would you say is something that you will always carry with you from your time of service?
Brotherhood.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you knew who had your back. You
Yeah.
know, you knew what kind of, what friends you could count on, what kind of fellowship you had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's something lacking. Where it's like I always, you know, I get told, why are you so paranoid, man? Why don't you trust people? I'm like, well, because a lot of you people have let me down, you know.
Yeah.
But there, I could trust, I could trust with my life, and then vice versa, you know.
Absolutely.
And then, what's one of like the funniest stories you feel you can share from your time in service?
Yeah, we took this guy and duct taped him to a sign. He kept sleeping. So we duct taped him to a sign naked. And he didn't know it because we snatched him out of bed. He was on duty. So our platoon sergeant kind of would punish us. And so we snuck down there and did a raid on his little Quonset hut, and we duct taped him. Got in a lot of trouble. Or when I rappelled off the barracks naked. That was kind of, after assault climber school, that was kind of fun.
So you guys had the blanket party to straighten some of the guys out, and then the naked rappelling. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. It's just kind of funny.
You know, yeah, and I look back at, you know, I mean, it was just like, there's a lot of things we you know, we got a lot of cool equipment and a lot of cool uniforms and all kinds of stuff to put on and look badass, but I think I seen more of our guys naked than I would care.
Yeah.
Time of service.
Without more naked that. Dudes and dirty book, you know.
Yep. I remember like we were going to do a weekend op with our boats on Lake Erie. We're taking them out of Cleveland to, like, I think it was like going to do we were going to help out in a D-Day reenactment or something like that, you know? And, you know, it was like, you know, what would normally be like maybe a 45-minute drive or something, or an hour drive in a car on land was like maybe 2 hours on the boat going there. And friggin' all of a sudden, dudes coming out and nothing but their cover on. You know, we're launching, but we got potato guns and we're shooting each other and we're like pirates, ship to ship.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Ridiculousness, man. And then what would you say is one of your greatest hopes for our country that you've been willing to give your life for?
People start loving each other, you know. People start loving each other, man. There's just too much hate out there. I'm not saying get all like political and, you know, no matter what we do is, you know, but people need to love each other and just, yeah, man, that's it.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, we've got certain groups that are like stigmatizing or whatever the other groups. And it's like, you can't build a relationship without communication. You know,
absolutely, man.
We can't figure out, you know, how we can help the other person unless we're talking. And like, I mean, I know my personal healing and my journey was when I was willing to be vulnerable and open up. But if somebody is saying something from like a side or whatever that you don't agree with, and you think it's all right to just silence them because you don't want to hear it, we can't grow, man. And I'm seeing way too much of that, you know?
Or if you're, you know, we can move on. Like one of my best friends, Fast Eddie, I call him. He believes something totally different than I do politically. He's my best friend.
Yeah.
You know, we don't believe the same, but we sure did serve this country.
Yeah.
There's common ground there. I mean, I think we all need to find some kind of common ground with each other.
Oh, yeah, I agree, man. And I remember like, you know, and social media has made it so easy to just, you know, say things that we wouldn't say to each other face to face, it seems like, you know, and I remember almost like during when we were all kind of like, you know, locked down when the COVID thing first came on, and that's all everybody had was just social media. And you're seeing, you know, these people that, man, I've been friends with you for years, you know, and we go to concerts together. You know, music's been a great uniter for a lot of us. And we stay inside. And then I was just like, they're throwing things at me, you know, that I was like, where is this coming from? And then, you know, I didn't always handle it the best way myself either in response. And it's just like, man, what's it going to be like if, you know, then it was like, if things open back up and we're at a show together, you know, are we going to throw down? Or are we going to, you know, shake each other's hand and enjoy enjoy the music or whatever. And
Mhm.
thankfully it was, we shook each other's hands and enjoyed the music, and all that stuff kind of got, put to the wayside. But yeah, it was just like too many people are too willing to, where I can just scroll by. I'll see something, I won't agree with it, and I'll just be like, I'm not going to change their, social media isn't the place where I'm going to change their view, or I'm going to type something so prolific or whatever that they're going to be like, why didn't I see it that way? I'm in, or whatever. It's more like life experience that we've all had. A lot of the people that, I seem to be at odds with have never been outside of their bubble, where guys like us, we were forced outside of our bubble into different cultures, different worlds, seen different things that it's like, it makes you appreciate what we have here more,
Mhm.
We were willing to die for it. And some of these people, are just like, they didn't know that sacrifice. They seem to just be like, whatever, it sucks. It's the worst place ever. My professor in college told me so,
Yeah. I learned everything. I went to college,
Yeah, exactly.
Your real world experience means nothing. I gone to college. I learned it from a book.
I remember coming back, and using some of my GI Bill after my last deployment, and I went into a field. I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but anyway, I'm like Billy Madison in there, with all the young kids coming out of high
It
school,
was the same
you
way.
know, and I'm listening to these professors just spoon feed them all this crap that I'm like, well, that ain't right. And that ain't true, and then when I would speak up, man, I was right away like, I'm the devil, I'm a veteran. I'm white. I'm Christian, conservative, heterosexual.
Mhm.
It's like I checked all the boxes of what's wrong with, you know, the world today. And it was just like, man, I felt more at peace deployed with my brothers than I did sometimes
Mhm.
in those college classrooms, man. You
Yeah.
know, but all I know, what I did learn is like, arguing and being forceful is never gonna help anybody see a different side, man. I've just learned to just kind of just be more through actions of love,
Mhm.
and try and be understanding, love people where they're at. They don't know what they don't know, you know.
Exactly.
Maybe I could show them, like, I mean, I became friend, and I don't think Static would mind me putting this out there. He's put it out on my podcast, but me and Static became friends because we're both in recovery, you
Me
know.
too.
And okay, awesome. Yeah. So it's like, hitting the rooms, to stay sober, and what we learn, working the program and stuff, and who we're supposed to, you know, it's shit. Well, I'm drawing a blank on the saying now, but attraction, not promotion, you
Mhm.
know. It's like, make it so people want what you have because the way you're living and handling yourself, and being dependable and stuff, and
Mhm.
that doors work, and that ways works so much better for me building relationships than trying to be the
Mhm.
forceful militant guy. And I knew, like, I got two daughters now, they're growing up into young women, and if I tried raising them like my dad, World War II Marine style raised me, I'd push them away. They'd hate me, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so things we learn as we get older, I guess, But I didn't mean to go on that tangent there. Let
No,
me
you're good.
um you know uh I want to get into more of your story and stuff, but I usually have these questions I ask veterans, so I want to get,
No, no problem.
well, this will kind of lead us right to the main thing. But what do you feel we can do to break the stigma of PTSD?
You know, that's a tough one, but just like I said earlier, man, like I I constantly love. I believe that we can constantly, not all hippie love or anything like that, because I mean hippies are cool too, but uh,
Yeah, I've hung out with you, yeah.
and but I mean I really feel that we can love one another, man, and reach out to our buddies. If communication, you said it earlier, communication, if we're knocking around, like knocking on doors and hey buddy, where you at? You know, I haven't heard from you in a few days, you know. But
Yeah, I know when especially, I mean, we dealing with what we've gone through and whatever
mhm,
kind of healing we've done for our demons, but also like, our addictions and stuff. It's isolation when we're stuck by it.
mhm,
We can't think our way out of a thinking problem.
right,
We can't lift the bucket we're standing in. We need
exactly.
fellowship. We need to stay connected and have that fellowship, and that's when we really started worrying. I don't know how many people, when we were locked down and couldn't get together for meetings physically, how many people went back out, you
Yeah.
know, and relapsed or worse, you know, and thankfully, Zoom and stuff like this was able to still make things happen and build
Mhm,
relationships and picking up the phone and calling, you know.
mhm,
But like for part of your like healing journey now, you mentioned and and that's something else we have in common. I mean, well, I was able to you know still retire or whatever, but I think you medically retired.
No, I got out in 2006, but I got 100% as soon as I got out. They deemed me pretty beat up, you know. But I did a third tour and then came back, and I always wanted to be with like the CIA or Delta, and I was pretty close at achieving one of those. And my marriage situation, just my wife wouldn't have it, so I got out.
Mm. Yeah, I was I mean, majority of my time in, was reserves,
Hmm.
but also like the first over 10 years, was kind of what was like peacetime. It was just like a lot of fun. We had money to train and be ready for something, but
Hmm.
it wasn't until like my oldest turned a year old when 9/11 happened. And then I was like, oh man, the party's over, and I just
Yeah.
had a baby, and then those remaining years, um, you know, we were getting deployed and doing what we've kind of been playing, ready
Hmm.
for. But I after that, that last deployment, I had some injuries and stuff like that. And I was like, I was able to get like I think 30% at the time because I was told you could still finish, your contract if as long as you stay below this percentage or something like that. So, I was like, man, I only have a little bit of time left, man. I gotta, I'll suck it up and try and make it through this. And then, but similar situation, I was up for a promotion, which would have extended me. I was E6, I was up for E7, and that would have, I would have had to extend, deploy again,
That's the same thing.
and yeah, and then I had, when I came home, it was like I had, my daughter turned 8 while I was away. My oldest turned 8 while I was away. My youngest, I came home just in time for her to turn 5, and my relationship with her mother was done, and we were separating, and I would have been a single dad, and I was like, I can't. So I was able to, thankfully, as soon as my 20 hit, put in my paperwork and retire. And then I went and followed up with all the things that I'd, was holding back on, all the
Hmm.
other injuries. And, now I'm up there, with you,
Yeah.
but, there's so much for me. And I don't know, maybe you could share a little bit too about, we started at the beginning of how we had to mentally be, prepared more than the physical stuff. I mean, to
Hmm.
get us through the physical stuff at the beginning, and then how much for myself that mental side was just like gone for the longest
Yeah.
time, and I had to rebuild, as I'm physically hurt and trying to rebuild my physical health. that mental side was gone, and I had to get that mental side back. And I've done things like hypnotherapy. I've done all kinds of different, like a lot of things outside the VA, probably got more help for that mental part. What was your journey? What has your journey been like to help you with your?
Well, when I got out, I bought a gun and was going to shoot myself, and music saved my life. Literally, music, and a famous musician called me up and said, "I'm going to cut one of your songs," and I was going to commit suicide. And a counselor here in Texas saved my life. Outside of VA, her husband got jacked up from the VA too, so Dr. Jamie Howard really took care of me.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your VA experience, because it's like
Not very good.
yeah.
I mean, it's been wonderful. A lot of places, the mental health through the VA is atrocious. Here in Texas, they use counselors that are interns, and they rotate every 6 months or 6 weeks. 6 to 18 weeks they rotate, so you never get comfortable with telling them stuff. You're like, hey, what the heck, man?
Yeah, and that's the same experience that I had here. It's just like, all right, you want me to open up, and be vulnerable, but man, by the time we get there, you're gone, and I got to start all over again, and then I got to relive it all over again. So that's why it's like, even a lot of stuff happened either out of pocket, or I connected with some really great veteran organizations that started me on my journey. And but yeah, the VA, it's like I finally found one that I would like. She was amazing, and she did EMDR. I don't know if you've ever done that, but that was like very, very helpful too, similar to like the hypnotherapy, because you really get into the subconscious mind and go back to where a lot of the original wounds happen, and she was amazing. But she was supposed to stay, that she wasn't one of those like going to be slipped out or whatever, but they overworked her. It's like they didn't take care of the people that are taking care of us. And I remember during COVID, we're on the screen together, and she's like, "This is going to be one of our, I hate to tell you this is going to be one of our last ones. I've put in my notice." And I was just like, man, I saw the exhaustion and defeat in her eyes. And it just like, I thanked her for everything she did for me. But then I was just like, done with the VA, man. I get most of my counseling outside of it now.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so you touched on it a little bit, and really want to get into your story with well, I mean, I want to kind of go back a little bit now. Music. When did music when has music been a part of your life? And
all my life, my family's music, and I've been playing guitar since I was about 14, and yeah, I just always played music, love concerts, go to rock concerts, used to go drive all over the Midwest, see concerts, and then I played guitar while I was in the Marines for some fun, and then I got out and started playing professionally, I guess.
Yeah, because you said, and I read that it was like, I guess Eric Clapton's drummer was who, reached out to you. How did you get to a place where you like your music was out there and he heard it and he was like, "Hey, I want to
I actually had a crappy demo on MySpace, and he got drunk and looked up Buddy Lee, and there's a Buddy Lee Entertainment in Nashville, and he went to the website one night, and I had my for booking call, and he called and he's like, "Hey man, it's a Jamie Oldacre." As soon as he said his name, I knew, because he used to play with Bob Seger. He was the original founder of the Silver Bullet Band, and founded Brooks and Dunn and all kinds of famous bands. And he says, "I'm going to cut one of your songs called Soldier's Prayer." Well, it was a Warrior's Prayer. He goes, "I think we should name it Soldier's Prayer." He goes, "I'm going to cut it. I want you to come out to Texas and hear it." And I did. And I was literally sitting on a bed with a 45. I mean, talk about Christian and divine intervention. If there wasn't a God, I don't know
Yeah.
who was.
Yeah. So, and that's what, I wanted to talk about, because so your music was, I mean, yeah. And he just put it wasn't the Buddy Lee, I guess he was originally looking for, but it's still like, like a God moment. It's funny because the sermon that we just had at church was all about divine appointments and stuff today too. So
Right.
now here we are, with a major one for you, talking about it. But you were putting music was kind of like therapy for you a little bit, but I mean you had reached a point like a lot of us do where you were just at your bottom and you were ready.
I was drinking all the time. I was hopeless. I just thought God had abandoned me. I thought, how could a God that loves me so much allow me to treat my wife and family the way I do, and allow me to see and do the heinous things that I did? And I had a lot of survivor's guilt. I lost almost my whole team in Iraq. Almost my entire team was killed. I wasn't with them. They were in Fallujah and they got killed. Almost my entire team. And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
And took a lot of recovery I've been sober now 15 years, going on 16. And
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's great, man. I just celebrated 13, approaching 14, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, because it's like, it's like, you lose we've lost a guy over time, either from my unit, or people I served with, either, you do lose, to some to PTSD, but a lot of the guys that of my ACU2 has just been kind of like old age or cancer or health stuff, and you we're there by each other's side, and we get to, kind of transition and get ready for their transition to their next, I guess, heavenly duty station or whatever, but I can't imagine when all of a sudden all the guys that you've been yucking it up with are suddenly, not there. And then how to deal with that.
Major from 3-1 reached out and said over 200 guys have committed suicide, like out of our 1,000-man unit. I mean,
because of that incident, they just were.
No, I mean, just from Fallujah, from 3-1, when they were there, they lost over, 20% of their unit to suicide. I mean, the day we came home from Iraq, one of our guys committed suicide. Jumped out of a moving car because he couldn't handle riding down the street in the civilian world. He just jumped out of his car. Got a call, hey, so-and-so jumped out of his car and killed himself. Later, somebody else killed themselves, and it's just been an epidemic, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's and I've thankfully, what I've been able to connect with doing this podcast is a lot of really good organizations helping veterans. It's funny because, like, we're the guys that, we count on when we're in the stuff, the man to my left, the man to my right, has my back, my brother's keeper, and then the system that sent us there, trains us all up to go, but does very little when we come back broken to fix us and get us back into that. But the same guy whose life depended on me and I depended on them is now starting organizations that's still helping us.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's
well,
why
we're gonna do it for ourselves,
Yeah.
And so yeah, I want to get into what you have been doing and what's been like, your contribution to help your fellow veterans. But really quick, so you get that phone call, that divine intervention comes in, and they use your song, and you get to work with them, and then, like, how does your networking and relationships to start what you do today, what leads to that?
I mean, I was a fair guitar player or whatever, but a guy that come on and mentored me was Jerry Jeff Walker, and Michael Martin Murphy and Bob Dylan's guitar player was like a dad to me. And I had so many surgeries on my hands, I needed to have a lot of rehab. So he introduced me to everybody. And with Jamie, I got to go to Nashville a lot and meet a lot of guys, from Chris Stapleton to, like I got to open for Chris Stapleton and Jamie Johnson and Roseanne Cash and, different people like that. And Dolly Parton's sister, Stella, and played with her a bunch. And it's just really cool. I mean, I got to meet all these people, but the thing is I didn't have the equipment I needed. So I sort of researched it and said, I think I can build this stuff. So that's kind of how I got where I am today. I started building my stuff.
And when we're talking about stuff for our audience, let's get into what you're building and what you're putting out.
We build like guitar pedals. I started Fallen Raider Audio, which are these handy dandy pedals, and we take veterans that suffer from PTSD and we get them out there and we bring them in. We are in a shop right now and we build and we pay them. We get a mental health treatment, sobriety, and show them the Lord. And every pedal is named after a fallen veteran. For every pedal sold, $25 goes to pay for a veterans counseling session from the lady that saved my life. And it's just amazing. So that's kind of how I got into it. I couldn't afford to buy all the guitar pedals and different things that all these guys had. So I just built my own, and I started building clones. And then all of a sudden from the clones, I didn't have all the parts, or they wouldn't send the parts. So then I kind of learned how the different components like resistors and capacitors make different sounds. And we started building these little guys. And I have guys that, build we build the boards from scratch. This is one of the pedals that we build. And then they turn out like this. Here's some more good stuff. And that's the insides. And inside each pedal is hidden a scripture that veteran meant to me, that I would pray over their lives. Like this one is the Bones, named after Aaron Cole, one of my best friends. And his scripture is John 15:13. No greater love than a man who lays his life down for his friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's which one it is, but it's just, that's various. And we're taking veterans. Like right now, we got a veteran coming from Houston. He's going to work for us doing sales. He's homeless. So we're getting him a home and finding him a place to put over his head, and we're going to pay him, but we got to start selling some pedals. Where the Semper Fi Fund has went way above and beyond. They gave me a grant, a huge grant, and we've been paying these veterans with it. And now it's time for us to take off on our own, or sink or swim. And that's why I'm so glad that you're on here helping us, because, we're at that point, we're either going to sink or swim. And I think this is a really good thing we're doing. We just got to sell some pedals and get our story out to the veterans, or the musicians, because these are fabulous pedals. I mean, our motto is rock stars that change lives. Be the rock star that changes lives. I mean, because, everything we do is veteran, and our pedals are 91% made in America. And it's 100% veterans owned, operated, from our marketing lady to, is this veteran spouse, a Marine spouse, to our graphic designers, to everything.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, when Static was telling me about you a while back, and then I just, I got caught up with some things, and I'm glad he, connected us, because then reading more about your story and what you've, what you've overcome yourself. And it's like, it goes back to kind of like our program as well. It's like, helping others helps us.
Absolutely.
Serving,
I get more out of this
service. No, go ahead.
I get more out of this than they do. And it's
Yeah,
not,
I mean, a
I've
new
never,
sense of purpose. You
yeah, I
know?
mean, I see these guys pour their hearts out into working for me, and it's just amazing.
I was just at a concert last night with some friends, and there was you know, I get a photo pass and stuff like that. I'm not much of a photographer. I'm learning now. That's another thing I'm picking up and to do for fun. I mean, I enjoy it, you know, because in first 3 songs you get to be right there, you know. So I got pedals right in my face, you know, all these pedals. Like you know, I was at the Trivium show last night, and they're, you know, new you know, heavy metal band. So it was all a bill of heavy metal performers, but I was just like, man, let's get some fallen Raider audio pedals up here with these guys, man. You know. Now I did read that you've had, you know, some of your pedals have been used by big artists though, and are out there.
Alice Cooper's producer, and Jack White and Chris Stapleton and Adele's producer have used them as well.
Yeah. And have they like you know, done anything to help like promote your organization and everything too?
A little bit. Chris Stapleton, Vance Powell, he posted a few times on Facebook. Brian Moncars, he's posted a little bit. They're supposed to do some videos and stuff like that for us, so we're waiting on those, and I know they'll come when they get. I mean, those guys are so swamped. I mean, it's crazy, but it's we need more and more and more and more promotion to get this going,
dude. You know, I mean, there's and there's many good musicians and artists out there that, you know, love the veteran community and go above and beyond to help and support the veterans and stuff. Like right now, I'm thinking, man, connect Buddy with Five Finger Death Punch or something, man.
Yeah,
and just like
I love them guys.
Rocket ship right there to help you and you know, help them as well.
So if anybody knows Five Finger Death Punch, send them our way.
Yeah, I might know a guy. I might know a guy. I'll that, you know, that'd be great, man. But so, you know, you talked about too, like, you know, or I read in some of your bio that, you know, you're basically, you know, like most musicians that are coming up and starting, you know, like starving artists, you know, you don't have a ton of money, you can't afford all the big equipment. And that was something else that kind of motivated you to learn to build these yourself and sell them at like a reasonable price. What you know, what are like, you know, the average prices of you know, your pedals compared to the average prices of any quality ones out there?
Well, we sell them all for $200. I sell every single one of them for $200 each. And the average pedal in this market that's hand built, hand soldered, hand designed, they sell from between $250 and $300. So, I mean, our warranty is one of the best in the business, which is $25. You break it anyway, Craftsman warranty. Or if something we did fix it, you send it to us, we'll fix it for free up to like a year or two. I can't remember what we have on the website, whatever it is, but that's our motto. That's what we do, because we want to have a good product that takes care of the musicians. A lot of musicians tell us it's the best pedal they've ever played. It's just because it's so unique, and but it's got such a commonality in the tone. I took a circuit, and I take circuits and then I tear them apart and rebuild the circuit. And I use my ears to build rather than like my super knowledge of schematics and stuff. So it takes sometimes months to design a pedal rather than, you know, just a few days.
Gotcha. And then you know, what would you say like makes your pedals different?
What makes our pedals different is they're all unique. they're all unique tones. They're very versatile, and they're built to be used together. Like I'll take the Raider and mix it with the Bones. But like, I mean, people that use them, they're just like, man, I want to put my finger on it, but I can't exactly describe it. It just sounds so good and clean. The thing is, you like your guitar. You like your amp as a guitar player. You bought it because you like it, or you want to show off, or whatever it is. Either way, you wanted that product. So why would you want me to change up the whole sound of everything that you just spent, 10 grand investing in? So I use a lot of subtractive EQs and some places additive EQs, but either way, I want to make that guitar sound the best it can, but I want it to sound like that guitar, not like a lot of pedals that just totally change the tone, and like the cheap Japanese or excuse me, cheap Chinese and just cheap foreign pedals. I mean, if you want a $30 pedal, go buy it. I mean, we're not your market. If you want to sound like a pro, a quality product, you come to us. You come to other companies like us. I mean, you're not going to go buy a $40 pedal at Walmart and say, this is what I want. It's going to last you 2 years. These pedals so far have lasted a long time. Some of my pedals have lasted 10 years, and I beat the absolute hell out of them just to test them. I build them, so if I break them, I can fix them. And we buy the switches and pots are all made in America. The boxes are made in America. Really, the only thing that's made overseas is the PCB board and a couple of the resistors and capacitors, but everything else I source in Europe or in the US. And I try to source more stuff in Europe than I do the US or in China.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's built by a hero. These guys are badasses. They serve their country. We got a guy that's Vietnam era veteran. We got a lot of just killer guys that work for us.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. So not only are people, that, invest, that, musicians that want to invest in their craft, investing in a good quality pedal, but at the same time, they're also helping save a veteran's life, or, support a great cause with veterans. So, I mean, it's like normally people, that there's some people that will write a check and donate to certain causes. Well, I mean, you're still donating and helping a cause at the same time as investing in yourself and your art, so it's like a win-win all around. And like you mentioned already earlier, what the money, the portion of the money goes to for helping veterans that aren't that the ones that really aren't at the place yet where they're ready to come in there and help build pedals, because they're just
$25 a pedal.
Yeah.
You get a free
trying to keep
basically by buying one of these, you also are buying a ticket for a veteran's life. That's what I look at it. Here's a ticket for serving your country, a veteran that served his country and wrote a blank check. Well, you're giving them a ticket, and then you get something badass to play.
Yeah. And that's awesome, man. And I, another reason why I'm glad, we were able to get you on here and help.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Get the word out as much as we can. And then, what was that? What was the other thing I was going to ask you? Goals going forward. What kind of goals do you have going forward, or what kind of hopes do you have with, personal, but also, with the Fallen Raider?
My personal goal is to get 300 pedals a month sold and pay for 300 counseling sessions a month. I want to sell 300 counseling sessions and employ 100 veterans. That's my goal.
Nice.
Personal, and my personal goal is to go closer with my Lord Jesus Christ every day and be a good husband. That's my main goal. But secondary goal is provide 300 counseling sessions for veterans.
Wow. Tearing me up over here, brother.
Oh, thank you, man.
I, because it's like, part of getting getting right and sober, and my relationship with Christ, as well as be a better dad. I'm still single dad, and I'm kind of like like last night I was reminded when I was out with my married friends, enjoying a concert, but how much that their spouses got to dictate a lot of their time and what we did before and after. And I was like, I had the freedom to just do whatever and have a good time. So it's like, hey, all right, God, if I'm not if you don't have a spouse for me, that's cool. But just keep me doing the right thing and being a good example and building that relationship, showing my daughters what a gentleman is supposed to be like. And
Absolutely.
so they don't settle, because they always say daughters kind of look for somebody that reminds them of their dad. And I wouldn't want them anywhere near me. Hell, I've been sober 13 years, but I still wouldn't want them anywhere near me, 3 years ago. It's like every day, one day at a time, I try and get better and better to be, that example for them, and, have my
Be the
slips and
example
falls.
that Christ called you to be.
Yeah, exactly. And, like your purpose now to help your brothers and sisters out there is, is doing it, getting these pedals out there and doing this. That's been your calling, with your gift. I'm hoping mine is, using this podcast to bring attention to these things, and have people give them something to talk about, something to think about, from a different perspective. So before we get ready and wrap up here and stuff, I wanted to ask you some of the questions that I normally ask. What happened? I wish there was a pause button on this thing, man. Damn. Well, apparently we lost Buddy. I think I'm going to have to end it at that. Fallen Raider audio. Man, check it out. I'm gonna try and get more information and post it on here, but apparently we lost Buddy. Our connection with him. So hey, man, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will catch you another time. Thank you.